Hello, folks. So in this video, I wanted to talk about my health, maybe some of my past. I think I have multiple ideas in my mind for different videos. Let me try to not blabber through this video with multiple things, but just talk about something specific. So, my ideas for different videos. Should I tell it? If I tell it, then it'll be almost like I've done the video already. I've already thought about the idea and written it down and whatnot. That itself is kind of like as if I've done it. And but the reality is I've not done it yet and I'm yet to do it. So anyway, so this video, let's talk about health in general, and my health specifically also, and different mistakes I make, especially with respect to health. I would love to tell about all the mistakes that I make in general. Let's see if I talk about that. If I tell anything in that section or area. So let's get started. So health, right? What is health? I'm a layman. I'm not a doctor. I didn't study science, like as in I studied science, but I didn't study medicine as a doctor or as a nurse and all, right? In my view, let's diagram, right? In my view, health. This is TH basically. There is, I think, two, but I've heard some people mention three things. One is physical health, right? So, physical health, and then let's drag this down. Mental health. Then I've heard of people talking about emotional health, right? I don't know if maybe I think this could be connected because brain, emotions, feelings, I don't know. This is about the muscle and whatnot. Of course, there is also the brain over here. Um, so recently, one of my friends who has actually done he was actually telling me a lot of interesting things. This is something to check out and research, but this is what I think it is. Like, it's physical health, mental health, and then there is also emotional health, right? Some people talk about the soul, right? People talk about the spirit and whatnot, right? Spirit. So yeah, those are also some things that, for example, people talk about how for mental health and for a peaceful soul or something, or a peaceful mind, right? I think all are related, right? So people talk about doing meditation, right? I don't know like how meditation exactly helps or even how to do meditation. People talk about yoga, especially in not just stretching and bends and whatnot, but also breathing, right? So, pardon my weird handwriting, but yeah. So it's kind of like comic handwriting. It's not capital caps, it's small case, lowercase. So bends, stretching, and breathing. There's a lot of asanas basically. Asanas. And I think the breathing ones are called, there is something called pranayama or something like that. So that is that. Let's let's take a picture of this and now I'll just rub this out and we'll actually talk about some more stuff, right? Some stuff that my friend told me. He is well versed some health stuff. I think he studied a course to basically become a trainer, a nutritionist, a trainer, a coach, right? And he actually built up his body. He buffed up, bulked up. He was very lean and thin, I think, and a bit skinny probably. Now he's a bit bulked up, and with muscles on his arms, his legs, and his chest and whatnot, right? I'm guessing he'll have some muscles on his back also, in shoulders, in near his shoulder blades and whatnot, right? So how one does not need muscle, right? Like he mentioned how the body will lose muscle first, and then like as at least one of the first things, um, right? Instead of losing other stuff, right? Because it doesn't need muscle. And he was talking about how if you put some person in a room and don't give them, say, food or water, and they're locked in the room, um, then let's say this is your key and you don't let them out, and there's no food and no water, then you basically start losing stuff one by one, like your senses. I think he was talking about how you might lose your eyesight, right? And you will lose muscle, of course. I think this is one of the first things you will lose. That's I think he was talking about this. So there are different levels, right? He was talking about different levels of what you will lose. I forgot them, but one of them was actually eyesight. I was like pretty shocked, but it makes sense. Like you don't have food, you don't have water, you're locked in a room, right? And basically you're starved to death almost, right? So what happens? So basically, talking about how you don't really need muscle, but then I'm going to actually read more about why you need muscle. Apparently, muscle burns fat, is what I read somewhere recently. Someone posted, a fitness coach posted. Even when you're sleeping, muscle burns fat, right? And the basics of muscle building. The only thing that I know is muscle builds up by like tearing up your muscle first, and then you rest, it'll build up, right? So, and of course, you need to eat protein and you have to drink enough water, is what I've heard. And people talk about stuff like and whatnot. But he spoke about how you don't need muscle to live a healthy life. You just need enough sleep, good food, healthy food. I think water, air. I think sunlight was something he mentioned. I forgot though. Right. So you just need some of these and you're good to go. You don't really need muscle, is what he was telling. But I mean, though he has muscles, he said this like generally to life and whatnot. So he was saying like how you don't need muscle, right? So, but anyways, we'll come to this muscle building and what are the benefits. Like, I think it can help you become strong. In my case, I don't want to ever be weak, right? Or feel the wrong kind of pain. So I don't want to feel the wrong kind of pain ever, right? I want to feel the right kind of pain, which is basically soreness, muscle soreness. Say muscle soreness, that's all right. This is basically injury and stuff like that, right? Or something like just weak bones, weak joints, right? Or weak muscles, right? Or even weak nerves. I don't know what else can be out there, but I don't want to be weak, right? So I want to be strong. So basically, let's draw the muscle, right? I want to be strong like this, like just just like that. Let's just put my face like this. I look like some interesting how my hip is so small. Um, so I'm just wearing pants, right? That's a very small lower body. I think If I buff up my leg, then I'll probably look like this, I think. Because buffing up only the upper body looks very weird. And so let's just have some bigger legs. And yeah, let's just have some good calf muscles. And yeah, I think we're good to go. And thigh muscles, right? And I don't know really what is the biceps, triceps, and all, but let's just assume that I have it all. So that's the ideal state, right, that I'm looking for. Let's just assume that I have little hair and I don't worry too much about that. And I've got some fingers. Cool. So, yeah, I mean, and I would love some six packs. Let's just assume that I'm actually turned and no, that's all. So, my nipples, whatever. So, it's like let's just say that I put pants. I'm just not wearing, I'm topless, right? Sorry for the obscenity in case you feel very weird. And shoelace and stuff. I don't know. This can be Nike, Adidas, Nike. It's easy to draw the Nike symbol, so yeah. Anyways, so I want to be strong, right? What do I do for this, right? I mean, I've done a lot of cardio in my life. Like, I've done walking a lot, I've done running a bit, right? So, cardio is okay. Cardio basically refers to the heart, right? Basically, cardiology, heart, and all. Anything that increases your heartbeat rate. And you can improve your breathing and all. And if you improve your breathing, your cardio can actually work well also. And even for exercise, I think breathing is important. When you exhale, when you inhale, when you actually stretch your muscle versus release your, like relax and release your muscles, contracting muscles and you know unwinding your muscles. I don't know how you call it, like contracting, and what's the opposite, like so contracting and I guess stretching. So yeah, whenever you lift the weight versus when you release the weight and go to normal position, accordingly you, I think when you go to normal position, when you're leaving the weight and relaxing, you basically inhale, I think. That's what I learned a month ago. And you exhale when you're actually lifting the weight. So this depends on what kind of stuff you're doing. If it's chest press, when you're pushing up, that's when you're actually exhaling because you're lifting the weight. You're pushing up and that's when the weight gets lifted and that's when you exhale. In I think in lat pull down, when you pull down, that's when you actually lift the weight and that's when you exhale. And when you leave it, you inhale. And in chest press, when you leave the weight down and come back down, you inhale. So the movement, it depends, but basically when you're struggling and pushing through, you exhale. When you're relaxing and you're giving up, you basically inhale. Giving up or relaxing or just coming back to normal position, you inhale, right? So yeah, I mean, I'm trying to actually not just do cardio or just look at breathing. Like breathing also, I want to increase my lung capacity. We'll come to that why. Um, I still am yet to research on this. I have, or more like I get to research on this. I want to, and I have to research on this so that I can talk more about it. But the thing is, I want to do weight training also, right? And I want to improve my grip strength. Now let's talk about some of these, right? So Why increase my lung capacity, the breathing and whatnot? Basically, having more lung capacity means having more space in your lungs. I think, let's say these are your lungs. Um, so let's say these are your lungs, and I want the space and the capacity of air that this can store to be as big as possible, right? Why though? So that I can store a lot of air, I can inhale a lot of air. So I was told that I'm yet to actually research more on this and verify this and all that. But in a fire extinguishing related class, it was an emergency response class for emergency response teams, and they spoke about fire extinguishers and extinguishing fires, putting out fires basically, and then giving CPR. Like I forgot the full form, but basically, if someone is breathless, or if what happens, what do you do when you see someone is choking on food or some particle or something, some substance or something, right? And how do you ensure that you're healthy and stuff like that. And that's when this person spoke about how the person who was teaching the session was talking about how your breathing and your heartbeat is all related, right? When you breathe in and breathe out, I think that causes your heart to beat, I think, twice or four times, I think. I'm not sure. So it makes it basically you breathe a lot. Let's say you breathe say 10 times. I'm sure you'll breathe more than that, probably 20 times in a minute, right? And that translates to basically 60 beats, actually 80 beats per minute. Usually, I think humans breathe some 15 to 20 times per minute, which basically translates to 60 to 80 beats per second, right? Heartbeat is basically 72, I think normal, that's the usual. 80 is also close to that. So I think that's the question. But what if you don't have to actually breathe 15 times per minute, 15 to 20 times per minute? Let's say you can actually breathe X amount of air by breathing 15 to 20 times per minute, right? What if I can actually breathe the X amount of air, let's say X air, right? Some units, let's say meter cube or whatever, some volume, right? Or liters or whatever, right? Then can I actually breathe 10 times to 15 times or 5 times to 10 times per minute, right? And can I still get the same amount of air? Well, how do you do that? By having a larger lung capacity, right? And having control over your breath and practicing breathing a fewer number of times and being able to get this amount of air with fewer amount of times by having bigger capacity, right? So I don't know if this 1 minute it just stays here, this X amount of air stays here, or it just keeps moving. Like every time you breathe. So what I was told was you breathe, your breathing and your heartbeat are related. So if you notice, if you're panting, right, you're breathing a lot, you're panting, and your heartbeat is also beating a lot when you run, let's say, right? So breath and heartbeat are related. And the other thing is, basically, you breathe, and what happens to the breath, right? What happens to the oxygen that you get, right? You release carbon dioxide, I think, but you release it, but you inhale and get oxygen. This basically goes to the lungs, and then from the lungs, I was told that it goes to the heart, right? And then heart basically mixes up blood and oxygen and pumps it to the all the other parts of the body, like using I think arteries, right? And then the blood comes back to the so this goes to the organs, right? And then from the organs, it comes back to the heart using the veins, I think. Actually, arteries, I think, have some muscles and all that. Veins don't have muscle, I think. I forgot. I read something around that. But arteries and veins are a bit different. And especially the main thing about arteries and veins is that in arteries, you send the blood, uh, oxygenated blood, from the heart to the organs, and veins are used to get the blood back to the heart from the organs, right? So, and basically, heart is always doing this work of mixing up blood and oxygen, right? Because I've actually heard some people talk about how the number of times you breathe is related to your lifetime. Like, for example, they talk about how if you, I mean, you only have a limited number of breaths in your life, right? This is talking about life and death. Basically, I was checking out Google and noticing that we still don't know why humans age, why humans die, and all that. There are multiple theories. I don't think we have enough proof and enough ideas around it, but I mean, enough surety about it. But the thing is, we have learned that this can be because of metabolism, and metabolism leads to aging naturally. I don't know what that means, metabolism, and like, I don't know what people mean when they say your metabolism is really good, really fast, really efficient, and all that, versus your metabolism is slow or not good and whatnot. Like people say someone is too thin even though they eat a lot, your metabolism is really good, is what they say, right? That's what I've heard. But yeah, I mean, so metabolism is something that I've heard, and then cells actually decaying, or like, I think something called as cell damage through oxygen, like when there is like too much oxygen, and when the oxygen has some toxicity. I forgot the reactive something oxygen, right? So basically it's called ROS, I think, or RO something, I forgot the name. But basically, reactive oxygenated species, I forgot. Anyways, so basically, when there is some toxicity in the oxygen and there is too much oxygen and whatnot, right? Someone was telling me if you breathe less, you basically take less oxygen, and so since you have less oxygen, your cells get damaged slowly and whatnot. Well, I think you really need enough oxygen. You can't do away with less oxygen. That's why I was talking about how you can actually breathe less number of times and still get the same amount of volume of air. The thing is, I was wondering that why people say you only have a limited number of breaths, right? And to breathe less. They're saying to breathe less number of times, not to breathe less oxygen, right? Is what I believe. So they're basically saying breathe less number of times, the inhaling and exhaling, do it less. But of course, you need to inhale enough oxygen that you require, right? Or else you will actually be similar to dehydrated. You will not have enough oxygen, probably deoxygenated or not, or lacking enough oxygen. Your organs need oxygen, I believe. That's what the heart is doing, I think, like mixing up blood and oxygen, and then to transfer oxygen to all the parts of the body, all the organs, right? And other parts, I don't know what, like organs, parts, like I don't know how to tell the thing, but I'm assuming that's what the heart is trying to do. And I'm wondering, what is the role of blood? Is it just to flow around similar to water, and like flow around, and like, I mean, water in the nature, like it just flows around, right, in the lake, sea, and all that. Its existence, why, I don't know, like water in the nature, and same way like blood in body. I think blood in body is mainly to transfer oxygen, maybe. I don't know what else. Like there is like red blood cells, white blood cells in it. I think it has a lot of features, but one of them is, I think, oxygen. The thing is, now you do need oxygen, but when you breathe less number of times, you can actually instead breathe more by having more lung capacity. But why do people say breathe less number of times? Let's say, I mean, let's assume that it's not breathe less air, but breathe less number of times, right? And why do people say you have only a fixed number of breaths and use it judiciously? Well, I think it's because people generally think, right? Like they think, they say, and people generally do think, of course. People generally think that you are decaying, right? At least I believe like we are all decaying or slowly rotting up and we are aging basically, right? So, I will like my idea is that, or my theory based on some existing theory, of course, this is like, maybe the heart, when it's created, like one of the theories is basically a cell, when after it's created, it has a fixed lifetime. Similar to that, a heart, once it's created, like once it's formed from a single living cell to living organism to a proper developed like human body, and then you have a heart in it, I think it can beat only some amount of times, let's say a billion times, a trillion times, maybe more actually. But let's say some y number of times, right? Or z number of times. Now, or x number of times. Now, I keep using x everywhere, but yeah, x number of times. Now, if you breathe a lot of number of times, uh, too many times, if you breathe, you're basically like breathing a lot of times, and hence, um, given a time period, let's say in 1 hour or say in 1 minute, if you breathe 15 to 20 times, versus in 1 minute, if you breathe 10 to 15 times, according to this theory, a heart can beat only X number of times given a heart, right? Assuming everything else is good, you are very healthy, you don't have any other heart problems, then X number of times and per minute you breathe less or more. Let's say less number of times or more number of times. Let's say you breathe more number of times, you will have a smaller lifetime. Assuming after X number of times of beating, you pass away, unfortunately, right? Assuming like cells die after some point, they have a set life expectancy, a set expiry date, right? Or expiry usage, right? You can use it these many times, right? So you can use it X number of times, and then after that, it'll not beat well or it'll stop beating, right? But if you actually breathe less number of times, given a minute, then you might end up uh, using your heart more for more time, given the same total amount of total number of times that it can beat X, you'll have more time, probably more lifetime. Of course, this is assuming that you don't have any other problems, but if you have other problems, that will decrease your lifetime. Say blocks in your heart because of something that you ate in your whole lifetime and whatnot, or some other problem in some other organ, and then you die because of that, which is very, very unfortunate, right? So that's the interesting part. Basically, you try to ensure that your lung capacity is larger or more, and hence you can breathe a lot of air, and hence you don't have to breathe too many times per minute, and your heart rate is also pretty low. Then you can actually ensure that your heart is beating for a longer time than it was already, right? Given a bigger heartbeat rate. And apparently, athletes have a really, really low resting heart rate, which means what is your heartbeat rate when you're resting and relaxed and calm, right? So, yeah, and not stressed out or in fear or anxious and all, right? So, yeah, I mean, tricky stuff. I mean, right? But I'm yet to learn more about this. This is all like hearsay only. I'm yet to research more on this, but it makes a lot of sense when I put one and one together. But then that's only logic. Real science might vary, so I'm going to check it out more. But and also the theory that say heart will beat only X number of times, some finite number of times, and cannot beat more than that is just like one theory that I just thought about, like based on the idea that hey, like how many times can a heart beat, right? Assuming that it wears and tears, like there is wear and tear, and it'll wear down, right, and it'll wear out. Same idea of like how a cell has a finite lifetime, right? Is one of the theories actually, right? And there are many more theories. So yeah, so that is that. Maybe in a different video when I have more light, I'll actually talk about food and more stuff relating to health and how food can be a very tricky problem to solve given nutrition, calories, satiety levels, and whatnot, right? And how it relates to your mood, how food and mood and whatnot are related, and then addiction, and then sleep cycles, and your energy levels, and your blood glucose levels, or blood sugar levels, or more like blood sugar level and glucose level. And in general, your body, like food is what matters a lot, and water also, of course. We'll talk about some of these in a different video. I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.